Hello everyone and welcome back to FLOSS, our course on open source software and how it's changing the software industry. Our last session we talked about the innovative aspects of the engineering processes we find in open source projects, and in this short session we will take a quick look at the tooling innovation that open source has brought us, or the tools that are specific to open source processes and different from what we know so far from traditional classic closed source software development. So again, it's software tool innovation, and the two main innovations that come out of open source are software forges and distributed version control. It's not that others haven't had those thoughts too, but it's really open source software projects where these two concepts have come to fruition and been vetted and been put to broad use to the extent that they've actually made it back into enterprises, into closed source software development. So let's start with the first one. A software forge is a web-based tools platform for collaborative software development. It usually has many different projects on it. That's a key aspect, not just one. So they are these two perspectives of a place where you go to have all the tools for your project, and a place where you go to see all the other open source projects that are out there. So ultimately then it's obviously a service that is being used by open source software developers. And I'm sure you all know these examples here. The two classic examples now are sourceforge. Well, sourceforge is the mother of all open source software forges, the original one, and the most well-known one these days is GitHub. Before GitHub, there were plenty of others. There was B06 and RubyForge, and there's some, but some are now defunct. Some are highly community-specific. Launchpad, obviously, for the Ubuntu community. But because there's a winner-takes-all dynamic here in play, these days, perhaps now the dominant software forge is actually GitHub, which won this title or grabbed this title off the hands of SourceForge. Here's a screenshot, the front page of SourceForge at some point of time, and you can see how it shows you various projects it offers, things like that. So you can choose a project, and then for a given project you would be able to inspect it, and if you're a developer on that project, use any of the tools for collaborative software development. Here's the front page, or sometime the front page, a screenshot of the GitHub front page, and you can see how it also shows you categories of projects, etc., that you can work with. So software forges are innovative in that they make things possible that weren't easily possible with traditional tools. A software forge helps the community process, the volunteering process. It's actually a matchmaking tool, which helps volunteers find projects they could volunteer their help to, or simply helps people find projects they're interested in for what reason, whatever reason. A forge also helps you improve code quality and share best practices. The key thing is, though, is to understand how a forge helps the open source volunteering process. So here again, from the session on community processes are the views, is the 5-stage process of open source volunteering. And you may remember how volunteers are searching for projects, and the projects are marketing themselves, and that's only possible or efficient, or that was made efficient with the help of software forges. And for each step along this process, software forges offer some help. So let's look at that in detail. The forge support for step 1 from the project's perspective to market the project is that the software forge supports stumbling as well as searching, as we called it, by volunteers. If a volunteer is smart enough to find a forge, find GitHub, they will run into features where there are random displays of current projects or project of the month, in addition to the goal-directed searching by keywords, hierarchical browsing in a classification hierarchy that will lead the developer to the project, any project they're looking for. And without this software support, all that would be left would be generic search services like Google or Yahoo search engines, but because it's specialized search engines, if you will, or specialized support for open source programming, of course, the GitHub features, the sourceforge features are more effective than the generic search engines. Here you can see it as features that are really prevalent or very visible on all the forges. How you can search by keyword here on sourceforge, how there is a hierarchical classification of projects to the left, a project of the month, etc., etc. Same here for GitHub, search at the top, explore in the middle, and some trending by chance, supporting stumbling into interesting projects at the bottom. For step 2, explaining the project, the Forge provides the various tools that a project needs to explain itself to anyone who comes looking. So makes it easy to have a summary on the project homepage, provide documentation, provide downloads, give easy access to ways of communicating with the project so that anyone who comes by will find it almost frictionless to engage in the third step and ask a question. So here's an example of a well-done project homepage on SourceForge. WinPython, the short designation explains it, allows for download, and you can see all the tools that are available and that you could use if you want to learn more. So for engaging with volunteers, our step 3 in the 5-stage model would be to make it easy to install the software, ask questions on forums, on mailing lists, etc. And simply open up all tools like the bug tracker so that people who want to use the software can file an issue if they really found one. And so such simple engagement on GitHub, it looks like this. You get to see the code. You can browse the wiki. You can fork it if you're a developer, or download the software perhaps as a zip file. So for stage 4, working with a contributor, these tools obviously, these forges obviously provide mailing lists, forums, etc. with all the bells and whistles you need, like notifications, etc. They let you set up your profile, people can find you, they gamify this, giving you stars and badges and what have you. All right, and well, that was a short rundown of what software forges do for open source projects. Again, they are matchmaking servers. At one single, well-findable, very memorable URL, people will find the open source projects, all the open source projects, almost all of the open source projects they might be looking for, and they will literally be driven to find those by way of the various features that the forges offer, and then be guided along this process of volunteering. Okay, so in addition, a software forge improves code quality because all the projects are on one place and we get less redundancy. The key problem in companies is that you just don't know what the other people are doing if you're strictly confined to a silo. And hence, in any company at any given point of time, you have the same component being developed 6 times. Not supposed to be like that, but that's how it is. In open source projects, you can actually search, as we just noted, for any component, and if it fits your needs, you can use it. If it fits your context, you can use it. So open source drives people to reuse components rather than to redundantly develop them again, and thereby components get used more often. The higher the use, the faster the bugs are found, and ultimately the faster a component matures and the quality goes up. Because everyone's on the same forge and people easily engage with multiple projects, we really can see that on places like GitHub. People also share best practices more easily. We'll see other ways later of how best practices are shared, for example, by way of foundations. But here, on a forge like GitHub, people move between projects, they take best practices with them, or they can see how others are doing things and learn from that. It's not hidden from them at some other place. It's easy to see what is going on and learn from others. All right, these were the forges. Pretty short rundown. There's much more to be said, but let me stay short and sweet here. Same thing, short and sweet, for distributed version control, which was introduced to open source software development, or because of open source software development, it's highly distributed nature of component-oriented software development. What distributed version control like Git and Mercurial allow developers to do is to work independently of each other, not to step on each other's toes, and thereby pick up speed of development much faster. You only integrate when you want to. Of course, you want to integrate often because you don't want to run into an integration nightmare, but you do it exactly when you want it and when you need it, and so you don't have anyone else stepping on your toes all the time. All right, that's it for this short and sweet session. Open source tool innovation comprises software forges and distributed version control. Software forges help the community process in open source projects, but they also help improve code quality and the sharing of best practices. Distributed version control speeds up development. All right, that's it from me. Thank you very much for your attention and see you in the next session.